Hey guys, thanks for joining me in this new video. This is the third video on finding the best name for one of the most common chords when you play guitar. So today's chord is this one. Now this chord is well known as C over B. So the actual name that you'll find on the internet when you're looking for, chords for the songs that you want to learn is more likely C over B. Okay, so where do you find it? First of all, in music. Very often you find it as a passing chord between C major and A minor or A minor 7. So for example, I can play an arpeggio. And it sounds great. It's nice, it's a nice sounding passing chord. Now, let's analyze the name of this chord. When we name it as C over B, there is immediately something that comes to my mind, which is the B doesn't belong to the C triad, so the B is the 7th in C. So the C triad is just made by C, E, and G. So adding the B means adding the major 7th. When we add the major 7th, the chord becomes C major 7, like this one. Now, placing the 7th, so the notes that we are adding on the bass, it's possible, but it's usually not something that sounds incredibly good. And if we do that, the chord would sound like this, which is not exactly what we're doing when we do this. You can probably already spot that the difference is one note on the D string. So if we think about the name again, C over B, every time that you find a slash chord, so one letter slash another letter, that means the letter on the left is usually your chord, so C, and the letter on the right is the note that you place on the bass. So B is not the chord, it's just the note on the bass. Now, if we look at the notes when we play this C over B, the notes are B, D, G, C. So that means that we have a D that we don't have when we are playing the C major. Now, we can still name it as C over B, but we need to add something else. We need to add sus2. This chord doesn't have any third, and for that reason we need to call it sus, and in particular sus2 because we are using the second degree, the open D, rather than the third. Okay, I'm assuming that we are not playing the high E string in this chord, so that we are not playing this, but we're playing just this. So first thing first, we can call it C over B if we add just sus2. C sus2 over B. So a C sus2 would normally be like this one. Now if we place the B on the bass, it becomes a C sus2 over B. Or if you want, a C major 7 sus2 over B. Because we are including the major 7th, which goes on the bass, and it becomes a third inversion. When the 7th is on the bass, you're playing a third inversion of a 7th chord. So we could even call it C major 7 sus2 over B. But if the name is too long, if you call it C sus2 over B, it's absolutely fine. What I'm thinking of, by the way, is that all of these notes could also be considered from a different root. So if I don't consider C as my root, as my home, I could consider the open G in this chord as the root note. And that means that I could think of a G chord, because the G chord is made by G, B, and D. And in this chord I do have a G, I do have a B on the bass, and I do have a D. So at the end of the day, I'm playing a G major in first inversion, so with the third on the bass. B is the third of G. So if I look at the first three strings, I could just call this G over B, which is a very common chord. And since I'm also playing a C, that C would be the fourth degree in G major. So I could call this chord G add 11 over B. So that's another possible chord of name of this chord. Obviously, these names are just examples of how you could possibly call this chord. I guess that mainly it depends on the function of the chord, because obviously when we go from C to A minor, I'm not sure if you're really thinking of adding a G, so a dominant chord, a fifth degree, as a passing chord in first inversion to go to A minor. You might just want to think, you know what, I'm playing this because of the bass line, which sounds really good. C, B, A, very common, you find it in many songs. So if that's the case, then it's fine. You can just consider C as your root note and call it C sus2 over B. But just to know all of the options available, you could consider it as a G something, and that G something is basically a first inversion of a G. In particular, it's a G add 11, so with the fourth, adding the fourth, right, to the triad. It's not a sus because we do have the third and it's actually on the bass. So that's the reason why we can call it G add 11 over B, so with the B on the bass, but we can't call it like G sus4 or anything like that because it's not a sus chord. Guys, if you're not sure about what the sus chords are, I have a full lesson on sus chords with all of the shapes and the definition, so you can find everything there. I guess it's gonna be around here, up here, somewhere. At the same time, if you want to check out the other lessons on this, chord names, what are the best chord names, the first two chords that I analyzed were an F major 7, and in general I talked about all of the major 7 chords and why we shouldn't call them 7+, and I talked about the 11 chords, in particular a C11, and I explained why this shouldn't even be called C11. Okay, so I guess that we explained pretty much everything about this C over B, the 2 possible names for it. If you know other names for this chord, please leave them in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this little talk on this chord, and if you have any suggestions or advice for the next chords that I should analyze, please leave them in the comments as well. If you're new here, guys, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell button if you want to be notified. I would love to hear from you. This was the Bearded Guitarist, guys. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I'll be seeing you next time.